Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Bold TV. I'm David Grosso from Gen Biz, a nonprofit dedicated to helping millennials and Gen Z understand money and entrepreneurship. We have just one segment for you today, and it's brought to you by Engineered Tax Services, where engineering and accounting come together. Joining us via Skype is Karyn Turk. She's host of Red America Radio and a friend of Bold and a friend of mine. Welcome, Karyn.
Hi, great to be back.
It's always great to have you on here, Karyn. So
Love
let's
coming on Bold TV.
uh,
TGIF.
TGIF indeed. So let's talk about the burning issue at hand right here. President Donald Trump, of course, announced that he intends to impose a 5% tariff on Mexican imports starting very soon. That's on June 10th. On top of the tariffs he's already put on Chinese goods. Many publications, including my favorite read, The Wall Street Journal, have reported that the president has the country in the middle of a trade war. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it certainly is a trade war, and I think in some ways it's the art of the deal. He's using these tariffs to negotiate and get these countries on board to make better trade agreements with the US.
So let's specifically talk about the Mexican tariff. So he put these on to try to force them to the table to solve the ongoing immigration crisis, specifically Central Americans asking for asylum at the border and getting the cooperation of the Mexican authorities to try to stem the tide. Good idea or bad idea, Karyn?
I think it's a good idea. I think it goes back to art of the deal. He's got to do something to negotiate with this. We have a major war going on at our border. We're being infiltrated, and we have to do something to take action. And if it means that he has to impose tariffs to, pull the noose a little bit harder and make them realize that they need to make change, he's got to take drastic measures. He's got to do something.
So the latest news last night, Karyn, was that Mexican negotiators were in town in Washington D.C. and that the talks had progressed some. Do you feel like maybe we'll avoid these tariffs and we'll get exactly what we want from in the form of cooperation from Mexico?
That would be wonderful. That would be very optimistic to say that, I think that that's going to happen. I'm hopeful that that could happen. And I think that it would be great to not impose the tariffs and be able to get the Mexican government to go ahead and negotiate with us in a way that would be positive and would get the changes that we need.
Yeah, so let's talk about tariffs a little bit. Tariffs, are a tax, and that's not something that's very popular on the right, of course. Anti-tax is, one of the mantras of conservative form of governance. So why do you think tariffs are on the table if they are a tax?
Because I think money helps to make decisions. And I think money is a good motivating factor to make change. So I think it's a negotiating tactic. And when it comes down to what actually is going to happen, these tariffs may not be imposed. But
So
I think he's going to propose them to try to get the motivating factor to move things along in the talks on immigration and the other things that we need the Mexican government to do.
Okay, so let's talk about the other trade war, which is a little bit easier to understand. China has been stealing intellectual property, devaluing their currency unfairly, some allege, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think it's smart to have a war on two fronts?
Yeah, I think we have to have this war with China, this trade war with China. I mean, they've been, taking advantage of us for a very long time. You can look at intellectual property and all the things they do, the knockoffs in China, the fact that our trade with China is much more important to them than it really is to us.
Yeah, but let's talk about the average consumer. Garen, I'm sure if you check your tags there, you'd find something made in China, right? Wouldn't you? Or definitely something made abroad. Trade has become, the whole way our economy runs. Supply chains are spread all over the globe. And, multinational corporations as well as small business have come to depend on international trade as, a given. Don't you think this is going to disrupt the economy if this trade war continues?
I do, and I think we're all dependent on China. I think we're all way too dependent on China's products. And I think China really has had a hold on us for a long time. But I think it's about time that we take a stand, we make America first, and we find a way to negotiate with these large international trade agreements and find a way to have some balance in our economy that's not so dependent on other countries.
So let's talk about, does Donald Trump have the upper hand on these trade negotiations? Or, what do you believe? We're in the midst now of these trade negotiations with now Mexico, China, and soon to be the EU, Karyn, because the president takes issue with some of their trade practices. Do you think the Trump administration and us as Americans, do we have the upper hand in these trade negotiations?
I do. I think we do have the upper hand. I think that America is very strong. I think our economy is very important. I think we're vitally important to these other countries. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that. And we negotiate with other countries in a way that isn't positive for us. Hence the whole America First initiative. So I think it's about time that we took a stand, got strong, and made these other countries step up and do things that are good for us as a country and good for us as Americans.
So, before I leave you, what's your advice for President Trump and for, our public leaders to deal with these trade imbalances, these immigration issues, et cetera, et cetera? What would be your advice? If I put you in the midst of all these negotiations, what would you say, Karyn?
I think we have to keep up the fight. I think we have to be strong. And I think we need to look at the art of the deal and continue these negotiations in a way where we go into them with strength and we use things like tariffs to negotiate. I'm
Well,
for it.
okay, Karyn. Well, it's always great seeing you. Hope things are well in Palm Beach. Hello
They
to the
are.
rest of the staff at ETS. Thank you so much.
Will do.
As always, we want to thank you for joining us today on Facebook and Periscope. Of course, don't forget to like Bold TV on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, now we're on Amazon Fire TV, so you could download Bold TV on your Amazon Fire Stick and watch us on the big screen. Of course, if you enjoyed today's brief episode, share it with your friends, and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.